Welcome to the first edition of the new series, Storytime and Tarot. Hey there, friends. Welcome to my channel. I'm Cerise, and this is Storytime. This Storytime is a crappy one. Literally, if you have a weak belly or if you're eating right now, I'm going to suggest that you check out another Storytime because this one here is not going to be the one for you. All right, let's get to the basics. We have two main characters, Joel and Jose. Jose and Joel are brothers. Now, Jose is a little older, and they used to both live in Crown Heights, New York. The two of them are close brothers. They're only 3 years apart. But Joel, he had kids at a very young age, so he ended up being a dad, and he got a job right away. Jose, he went to school in North Carolina and did very well in school. And, Joel was very, very proud of his brother, his older brother. So what happened was Jose he went home, graduated, and, the family was very proud of him. So Joel wanted to take his brother out for a nice meal. So the two of them went out for a really good meal. They're sitting at the table, and it was a nice restaurant. Joel was saving up for it for a while, and he made really good, he made reservations and everything. Well, this is what happened. They get to the restaurant. They get to the front. So the greeter says, "What's your name?" And Joel said, "Peter." And the person said, "Okay, awesome, come on in." So they went and they sat down, and they were chilling out. And then one of the waiters went up to Jose and Joel and said, "Hey, okay, can I take your order?" And Jose said, "Sure." And he said what he wanted to order. And then the waiter looks and says, "And you, sir?" And then Joel says, "Yes, I will have blah, blah, blah." The waiter says, "Okay, wait a minute. This is supposed to be the table for somebody named Peter. You don't look like a Peter." Red flags already, right? So then Joel says, "Well, I just said my name was Peter because the first time when I called to say my name was Joel, there was a long waiting list. I thought if I called back and gave the name Peter, I might get in sooner." And that's what happened. And the waiter was like, "Oh, okay, all right. Okay, that was smart, brilliant." And he's like, "All right, let me take your order." Now, that was rude. I think that was just rude. How dare him say, "Well, you don't look like a Peter." That's none of his business whether he looks like a Peter or a Pedro. You know what I mean? Come on now. In any case, so they gave their order. Now, other people came in after them, and those people, they gave their order, and they were served first. So Jose starts looking at Joel, and he's like, "Joel, some people came in, they had their meals and left already, and we're still sitting here." And Joel's like, "I noticed. I'm sorry, bro." He's like, "I don't know what to say." Jose's like, "Don't worry about it. I know you planned this night for me. I'm being patient. I just want to make sure that you're cool with it." And Joel says, "No, I'm not cool with it, actually." He's like, "Because I don't understand why these people are coming in after and eating before." And then so he calls over the waiter, and the waiter goes over to him. The waiter's like, "Yes." And he's like, "What's going on with the food?" And the waiter said, "Oh, those guys, they booked their appointments and their reservations months in advance, and they also told us what they wanted to eat. And, and so we already pre-cooked their meals." And so, obviously it was a lie. And so he walked away from the table. He said, "Don't worry, we're on your meals right now. We're cooking your food right now." And then so Jose looks at Joel and says, "Joel, I saw some of those people come in and order from the menu." Joel's like, "I know, bro." And Jose's like, "Okay, again, I'm not complaining, but I just want to make sure you're cool with it." He's like, "I really don't need a fancy restaurant. I don't even know how much you're going to be paying for this. You got kids, you got a wife and everything." He's like, "I'd be good with just McDonald's and us going back home and spending some time just kicking it." And Joel's like, "No, no, no, no. I want to treat you fancy, So then that was it. About 15 minutes more. Joel gets up and he's like, let me go speak to the manager. So he gets up and he goes to speak to the manager. And he says to the manager, hey, you know, my brother and I, we've been sitting here for like over 45 minutes and our food's still not coming out. We've seen people come in, order from the menu, and then leave again. Like, maybe we should order something else off the menu. And the manager's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Let me go to the back and see what's going on. So the manager goes to the back and he doesn't return to their table. So they're waiting about 15 minutes, but the manager was back out on the floor. He wasn't in the back of the kitchen. He didn't go back to the table to tell them any update. So now Joel gets back up, and now at this point, he's on Facebook Live to air. And he is showing what's going on, and he's talking on Facebook Live, but not loud so everyone could hear. He's just like on Facebook Live, and he's like, hey guys, so we're at this restaurant. We're not sure if it's discriminating against us or not, but I just want to give you a heads up, or if any of you guys know about this restaurant, let us know. It feels kind of shady, you know? And so he doesn't tell the manager that he's on the live to air, but he goes back over to the manager and he's like, hey, dude, you didn't come back to the table to let us know what's going on. Should we order something else? It's not a problem. And the manager's like, you know what? Just give it a little bit more. And, and then Joel's like, okay. So Joel goes to the table and he sits down and he's like, Jose, do you want to just order it to go? Because they're going to most likely bring it out, and I had a nice night planned for us, and there's a few other things like surprises and everything. He goes, I don't want to tell you what it's all about, but you're going to really enjoy the night, and time is running. I thought we'd be out of here by now. Jose's like, yeah, man, let's take the food to go. So then they take the food to go, and he goes to the manager and he's like, hey, can you just pack up the food to go? The manager's like, oh my gosh, you know what? It's not even being cooked yet. Can we just reschedule you? Can we just give you some reservations for another time? And Joel was like, no, like, what are you talking about? Like, and then he let it know. He says, I'm on Facebook right now, and this is Facebook Live, and there are people telling me that your restaurant is all about discrimination. So, I don't think this is right. And the manager's like, no, you have it wrong. Like, that's not true. Like, it's not discrimination at all. So then he said, let me go in the back and see what the cook is doing. So then the manager goes in the back, and then within about 15 minutes, they have their food. Because the manager goes into the back and he, I guess, rushed the order. Then he goes back to their table this time because he knows they're on Facebook Live now. And he goes over to Joel and he's like, I'm really sorry about this. There were some orders for delivery. And when there's orders for delivery, it's just a really hectic time. So, everything just opened back up, So, like with the way of the world right now and everything, he's like, and we were a really popular restaurant before. Everything closed down, and now that everything's opened up, people are like just really putting in orders. So I really apologize about that. And the next time you come, we can extend some certificate for you, like some type of offer for you. And Joel was like, no problems. Like, that's a really good explanation. Thank you. And the manager's like, all right, awesome. So the manager brings out the food. And, of course, Dominican style, I learned here as well, you don't leave the restaurant without checking your food. So Joel and Jose check the food, and it is like not what they ordered. And he's like, man, he says to the manager, he's like, man, this is not what we ordered. And the manager's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. What did you order? And he said, we ordered steaks, and these are just hamburgers. And the manager was like, oh, I don't know what's going on. He said, okay, listen, I'm going to put you in for another reservation whenever you like, and we're going to comp you the meal when you come back. And this was all on Facebook, right? Joel's still on live to air. And Joel's like, okay, Facebook, you heard that. They're going to comp my meal when we come back. And the manager's like, yes, here's my card. And he signed the back of the card. And he said, take this card. This is your proof. Whenever you're ready, you come on back with you and your brother or you and another guest. It's totally fine. So Joel said, well, what if my brother comes back without me? Like, is that cool? Right? Because Joel worked very hard and he had to take time off work to take his brother to the restaurant. And he thought really the treat was for his brother, not for himself. So he wanted to give that comp card to Jose. And so that's what he did. So now, moving forward, Jose decides that he's going to take his girlfriend to the restaurant. Okay, so one day, you know, him and his girlfriend, they make reservations, and he said on the phone to the person that was taking the reservations, "May I please speak with the manager?" And the manager came on the phone and he said, "Hi," he's like, "My name's Jose. Do you remember I was there with my brother Joel, blah, 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 blah." And Jose and the manager was like, "Oh yeah, man, yeah, no problems. Come on in. I really apologize about this. And you come on in. Let me know when you want to come. And the whole meal is comped. Whole meal is free." Jose's like, "Awesome." So him and his girlfriend, they show up and they're seated, and you know, about a half an hour pass and their food is brought to the table. They eat, and the girlfriend was like, "Does this food taste right to you?" And Jose was like, "No, I don't know." He's like, "This is a fancy restaurant. Maybe they're using some type of spices or some type of stuff." You know, he goes, "You know how some people put rosemary and mustard together and they put all kinds of funky, fancy stuff, seasonings together, and we've never tasted it before." And she's like, I don't feel good and I can't eat any more of this. She's like, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound ungrateful, babe, but I can't eat this." And he's like, "All right." He's like, "Why don't we just take this to go?" And she's like, "All right." So they asked for it to go. Now, one thing about Jose is he doesn't like his food to go back into the kitchen, because he is very picky that way. He doesn't want them to be like, "Oh, you didn't eat all the food. Oh, you're sending the food back in the kitchen." And he's afraid someone's going to spit in his food. Smart, right? So, I mean, you do have to be careful, right? So he's like, can we have some dishes, some plates to go, some to-go plates, and we're just going to pack it ourselves. The manager's like, no, it's all right. You know, listen, he's like, "I'm sorry that the food wasn't to your standards, especially after the first time you were here. Let me take the food and pack it for you nicely in the back and put a little bit more in, you know, like." And the girl was like, no, that's okay. You know, I'm not really into it anyway. I'm just going to take it home. And then he's like, "All right." So he went and he got the takeout plates and he took them back to the table and he gave them to Jose and Jose's girlfriend. So they get home and he's watching television, and his girlfriend, she's doing her studies. Now, she's studying different toxics and stuff like that, you know, like she's studying chemicals, and she's in school. She's studying a lot. Now, she looks at him, and he ate the rest of his food, and then he ate a little bit of hers, and then he said to her, he's like, "You know what, babe? This doesn't taste right." And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I'm trying to get used to the taste, but yeah, it's nothing I've ever tasted before." And he's like, "I don't know. There's something in it." He's like, "When I go, there's like an aftertaste of some kind." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I don't know. Let's just don't even eat any longer." And he said, "All right." So he put it back in the fridge, and, you know, they went to sleep that night. That night, he woke up with a fever and sweats and vomiting and diarrhea. It was awful. He never felt that way before. He had to put a bucket in front of his mouth as he was on the toilet crapping. Okay. And he was hot and sweating at the same time. And you know, his girlfriend, she's smart, because she said to him, "It's the food." And he's like, "Oh, come on, babe. Like, you know, come on." Because the whole time she was like, "I swear they did something to this food. They must be mad that you did a Facebook, that Joel did a Facebook Live, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Babe, come on. Like, just don't. Like, you know," because she's that person. She's that one that will call things out. And she was like, "I don't mean to complain. I appreciate that you took me to such a nice fancy restaurant, but I could have cooked for you at home and blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Okay, I'm sick right now. Just leave me alone." So she took that food to the lab at her university the next day and got it tested. And when the test came back, it was number 2. Yes, I don't want to say the word because, you know, it's just gross, but crap. someone put crap in the food. Obviously, it was the cook. Obviously, the chef did it because that's who's making the food, right? So after they tested it and everything, and it came back, positive for all of that, well, they called their lawyers. And they went to the lawyers and they complained, and they sued the restaurant, and the restaurant is settling. Now, this is not the first time that this has happened. Apparently, this restaurant is very discriminatory against Dominicans. Get that? And they just, and it's been reported before that the food made people sick, but no one had the food tested. Nobody ever went and thought about that. She did it because she had access to the lab. And they are in the midst of settling right now. Now, I said to Jose, well, what's the restaurant name? And Jose's like, no, I can't because everything's getting settled. And the chef got fired. And so did the manager and the wait staff. They redesigned everything, and, they're settling out of court. So I was like, well, I feel like I'm giving half a story. And he's like, no, you're not, because the whole restaurant's changed over. There's a brand new chef. The restaurant did what they had to do in order to make things right financially and also just in general. And everything is being changed over. He says, so don't worry, but just make people aware that if you are eating food and it is making you sick and you got that intuition saying something is up, then don't eat the food any longer. Doesn't matter if it's a fancy restaurant and a meal you never tried before. If it tastes bad, don't be afraid to send it back and leave. He said to me, you know what, Cerise, even though I wanted to send the food back, I didn't want to complain because they were comping it. And I was like, yeah, but still, like, they were comping it. Get up and leave. Just be like, thank you, and go. And he's like, yeah, but just for those of you who don't know, eating number 2 cannot kill you necessarily. There's actually, I researched it, and yeah, there's some people like soldiers back in the day during war that even ate camel number 2. So apparently it is to help sicknesses. So if someone is sick, apparently eating number 2 can help. Ooh, gosh. I mean, the other day I was on Pedro Clasante, and a friend of mine named Gus, he's an older gentleman. Hey, Gus, how you doing, sweetheart? He listens to my story times as well. And he said to me, Cerise, because I told him I was going to the salon, and I feel like I need to get a facial. And he's like, why are you going to get a facial done? He's like, you look fine. And I'm like, thank you, but I just want to go get a little fresher upper, And he's like, do it yourself at home. And I'm like, I do all the time, but sometimes those are just over-the-counter products. And he's like, no. Do this. Pee in a cup and then just put it on your face with a cotton ball. And I'm like, what? I thought he was joking at first. And he's like, no, because he was a captain before of a fishing boat. Many years ago, his hands were really wrinkly and really hard and just blistering and cracked and everything because he'd be working during temperatures that were like just below freezing certain times, and his hands were rough and tough, and he said he couldn't even bend them sometimes. He said then he started to notice some of the crew, as they're going pee, they're peeing all over their hands. And he's like, why are you peeing all over your hands? And then they said to him, well, it's good for the skin. Your own pee is good for your skin. It helps heal any blemishes or like any cuts, any sores. And so Gus did it himself, and he said it worked within days like magic. So I was like, whoa, do you think I tried it? I did. I tried it 2 days in a row. I also researched it on YouTube to see if it's a thing, and it is a huge thing. It's called urea or something. And there's a certain substance inside the pee that helps with the face. Now, you're supposed to get the first pee in the morning, okay? And that's what's supposed to work. I tried it for 2 days, but I just could not keep up with that routine. I was like, no, I was afraid I'd smell like pee outside, especially your first pee in the morning. It just smells strong, right? But I can't believe I'm telling you guys this. This is just a little too much information, but you might want to try it because I didn't notice any differences, but I did look online and did the research, and apparently it is a thing. So I was not like, I was shocked with the pee. But when I heard this story, I was like, oh no, this is horrible. What chef is going to go and do a number 2 and put it in the food? And who's not going to smell that in the kitchen? And why didn't they smell it in the plate? I don't even know what to say. But yeah, that is a thing. So guys, please be careful. I'm not able to give you the restaurant name because he didn't give me the restaurant name. Because again, they're doing settlements right now and he doesn't want to mess it up. But he did say to me that he wants you guys in New York or around the world, no matter where you are, to know that there are things going on around that people are doing. And he said it's nothing new. Apparently this has happened in restaurants before. So pay attention to your intuition, pay attention to your gut reaction to any foods that you're eating, because you could be eating somebody else's crap. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm Cerise and this is Storytime. I have a Storytime playlist. I'm going to link it down below. I would appreciate it so much if you would subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. When you do subscribe, can you do me a favor? There is a bell and it will give you an option and it will ask you if you want all notifications. Go ahead and click all, and that way you will be notified when I upload a video, whether it's story time or a video on random things. You can take a chance on me. I try to upload every day so I can offer you with different types of content for your day. Alrighty guys, huge hugs, loads of love, big blesses, and make sure you watch what you eat. Remember, we are what we eat, and you don't want to be a pile of number 2. Take care, everyone. I love you.